The strange of church and state. That is the topic of tonight's byline. Canada has an odd relationship with religion, and I blame a combination of multiculturalism and militant secularism. It used to be simple. Quebec was Catholic, Ontario was staunchly Protestant and Orange, and the rest of the country leaned in a mildly Protestant direction. Quebec has dumped its Catholicism, turning at least at the official government level, into a rabidly anti-religion and pro-statist society. For the rest of Canada, we've turned into a society that doesn't want to talk too much about religion. Sure, plenty of us are still involved at church or temple. Plenty of us show up each week. In fact, more Canadians take part in a weekly religious worship service of some kind than watch NHL hockey. You wouldn't think that from our media coverage. Right now, though, we have a provincial government in Ontario trying to force Catholic schools to accept something that goes against their faith. This on a school system that predates Confederation and the establishment of public education in Ontario. Earlier today, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled against religious freedom and parental rights in saying that the Quebec education system could impose a religious curriculum on school children that goes against their own faith. This curriculum, the critics say, teaches that all religions are the same, all are equal. Parents who wanted to withdraw their children from this program have been told by the court that it's too bad. They don't have that option. In Canada, the state is a child's first educator, even in matters of faith, it seems. Quebec has also tried to force this on private schools, so withdrawing from the public system isn't an option. That's how Canadian governments deal with religion, at least what we would call Western religions. Then there is Islam. Canadian politicians take a deferential stance toward Islam. When they're not praising or defending it, they do their best to ignore problems. The same provincial government in Ontario that says Catholic schools must violate their own teachings, they also approve of the Mosqueteria and the segregation of boys and girls in public schools. You remember the Mosqueteria story. It was broken by a blogger named Blazing Catfur. At a number of public schools in Toronto, the cafeteria is turned into a mosque every Friday. We found out that non-Muslim students were kept out. Boys and girls were segregated, as happens at the mosque, in most mosques anyway, and menstruating girls, they were made to sit at the very back of the room. The Liberal government said everything was A-OK. In fact, here's what Liberal MPP Kathleen Wynne said. "We've had religious accommodation in our schools for many years. We are simply providing space. It's a practice that makes us stronger." There were concerns raised about what might be taught in the Mosqueteria, but those were dismissed. Now we have word out of a report put together by CSIS called The Fourth R, Radicalization and Islamist Extremism in Canadian Secondary Schools. The report says that Canadian students are being radicalized in their high schools towards Islamism. I'm sure Premier McGuinty will say, nothing to see here. Just as all kinds of politicians have turned a blind eye for years towards Imam Ali Hindi. Hindi has admitted to performing polygamous marriages in Canada, bragging about it to the media. He called the Toronto 18 good people. He considers the 9/11 attacks to be the work of the CIA. He's refused to condemn terror attacks carried out by Muslims in the name of Islam. Well, now we find out that Hindi's mosque is currently getting about a quarter of its funding from overseas sources in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates. Gulf money to build a huge mosque from countries that don't allow the free practice of religion, other than Islam, in their own lands. We have two different standards for dealing with religion in Canada. If you're Christian or Jewish or anything that can be described as Western, you will be asked to stay quiet about your faith. Any vestiges of the old ways might be tolerated when not being attacked, but for Islam, Buddhism, even First Nation spirituality, those can all be embraced by politicians and celebrated. The warts and problems can be glossed over by our media and political elites. It is, in short, a sort of self-loathing of Western civilization brought about through a combination of multiculturalism and militant secularism. We need to stop repressing our roots while celebrating all that's new, and we need to get a grip. Religion is not going away. And that's the byline. Joining me for more on this is a man that is often critical of the way that we in the media and our political masters deal with Islam. He is Tarek Fatah, co-founder of the Muslim Canadian Congress. Tarek, am I being too soft again? You're normally telling me I'm too soft when it comes to discussions of Islam.
No, I think you're very accurate in what you said. I think white guilt is a terrible thing to waste. And,
well, I generally don't feel it. I generally just don't feel it. So,
I know,
but that's a rarity.
But tell your fellow media operators or journalists or columnists, there simply is no stomach to face the truth. It's what I call the racism of lower expectations. You can get away by anything. I'll give you just one instance of this gold bar scandal. No reporter is willing to cover that story. 32 bars of gold disappear in an obviously fraudulent manner. Somebody says that sent it away to Egypt. The police are not investigating. Nobody wishes to know. No newspaper wants to cover it. Why?
Well, hold on. What story is this? This is the what?
This is a case of a Sharia financial institution going bankrupt. Yeah. One day before it goes into receivership, it converts $2 million of its cash into gold bars bought from Scotiabank and silver, and in the middle of the night gets transferred into a car in the trunk of an imam who says that I have to pay it to certain clerics in Egypt. He puts it in his suitcase and says, I flew over there, gone, $2 million stolen. Do you think this shouldn't be front page news?
Well, I think it was front page news when Sharia banking was starting in Canada.
No, I'm talking of October, November, December. It's happened right now.
Yeah, no, but when this bank started, it was front page news, and its demise, not so much.
Oh, it's 32 bars of gold missing. One day it will be, but 4 women have to die before we know about who the Shafiyas are.
We sent our cameras out to talk to the people outside the giant mosque in Scarborough, the one I was talking about, Imam Ali Hindi. He's a strange man, admits to performing polygamous marriages, admits about a quarter of his money comes from overseas. There was a bit of a scuffle almost over our cameras showing up to ask people what they thought. Is this an area, some security reports say this mosque has to be watched carefully. Is that fear-mongering about Islam, or is this a place that we should be looking at?
Every mosque that receives money from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Iran, or has a spiritual alliance with these countries that are hostile to Western civilization, they should be watched. Absolutely, I have no problem whatsoever. And this particular imam, the best thing that can be said about him is pretty honest. He is the one who says openly what he's doing, that the Toronto 18 would come. He said they're good people. The other imams are the ones that are dangerous, that they will say something else to you and something else to the congregation. And this guy got, what, $500,000? I know for Toronto area mosque, they got $15 million. Every mosque that I know is on the pace somehow from some Middle East government to spread Sharia law in this country, to say that Westerners, especially Western women, are essentially evil, satanic, they're sluts, stay away from them until and unless you can convert them to Islam and have more Muslim babies from them. This is going on rampant, and nobody wishes to touch it.
And the money to pay for this, you say, comes from overseas.
Brian, you and I pay for it as well, because all of these are charitable institutions. Every dollar that they collect from the local donor is matched by a tax credit. From who pays the tax credit? You and I. So we as Canadians are paying institutions that are training our young men to hate Canada. But you can't do anything about it because every liberal-minded, and I'm not talking of capital L liberal, I'm talking of conservative, NDP, all of them are scared about the blackmailing they get from the imams when they meet them. Do you think politicians meet a Muslim who doesn't have a beard? No. They say, we've got one chance to meet with someone, we better get the best clown they have to offer. So he's usually dressed in a medieval attire, there's lots of cloth involved, facial hair, and that becomes the spokesperson for Muslims. And what's the deal done? Nobody touches Imam Ali Hindi. He's committing a crime by admitting to polygamous marriages. Do you think the police would charge him?
Probably not.
Of course not.
Tarek, I never feel better when I have you on, but I'm always glad that we do because you...
I'm so sorry.
Well, you know, you don't cheer me up.
I'm the canary in the mine.
But you got to let us know these things. Tarek Fatah, thanks so much.
Thank you.